Welcome back. Well, today we are going over another one of those elders training videos, and so I hope you enjoyed the last one. I know it opened up a lot more questions for me, and in the future we'll be covering the elders book, just strictly going over just chapter by chapter, just seeing what's inside the elders book. And just to make sure that we all get a chance to see what the elders have been judging us with for all of those years. So now we're going to get right over to the screen here, and let me see, I'm going to turn on the volume for that screen. And yeah, here we go.
Mary. The library, looks like it's available. Have a seat. How can I help?
I'm going to spy on them here.
I can't take the loneliness anymore. I want my Don back. I want my life back like it was before. The last song triggered my feelings. It feels like my heart is being ripped out of my chest all over again.
There. That's okay. Here. See what's going on there? That's what's going on there. I didn't think that was allowed. I hear this sister, you're gonna know as we go on in the story here. She lost her husband. And, she's not that old. She's a widow now. She's actually dressed quite well. And they're singing the song here. And this is actually, we'll learn, is quite some time later, like a year later. And she's still grieving. She's still having these feelings. And so this brother's the attendant. Now, most times the attendants are elders. This one looks like an elder. And so this sister's crying or wants some help. She's in distress. So he takes her into the private library, and now he's holding her hand. Now, I don't think he's her brother-in-law or anything like that. No, it doesn't show that. He's just the attendant at the door. And he goes in and he's holding her hand. I just thought that was unusual. Now, keep in mind, folks, this is a Watchtower training video. This is a training video for the elders. And this would be telling me why perhaps I had some problems with elders throughout the years of my life. Because this is what they train the elders to do. And so, I thought this goes against it. I did look into the elders book. And the elders book does say that they're supposed to have another brother with them. And I'm just wondering why they opened up like this. It is innocent. It's just in the library of the Kingdom Hall. But, all things do start behind closed doors. Just in the closet, just in the coat room. So, what's the brother's motive here? That would be my question. This is a Watchtower, well-scripted, well-acted out video. These are all actors. And so they're just acting out their parts. But you see, that would be part of the script for him to hold his hand to go into the private room. That's part of the script. So what is the underlying message here that the Watchtower is giving us regarding how they're training their elders? That's what we're looking for here.
It's been a year now, Mary. You shouldn't be this upset still. We have the wonderful hope of the resurrection. You must recall that 1 Thessalonians 4 says that we wouldn't sorrow as the rest also do who have no hope. So our hope in itself should calm you down.
I don't think I can go on. It would be better to turn the car on in the garage and go to sleep.
I know this is difficult for you. Please know that others have had similar feelings. But you have to remember at Exodus 20 when Jehovah said, "You must not murder," that included self-murder.
Okay, so she's admitted to, or confided to this elder that she has feelings of just ending her life. So we'll see what they do next.
Always remember that you need to stay faithful to Jehovah if you truly want to see Don in the new world. I'm so sorry the song triggered your emotions. We all want the best for you, Mary. You know that, don't you? I know it's awkward to face the friends when you're feeling this way. You're welcome to sit in here until you feel your emotions have settled down some.
Thank you.
You want the light on or off?
Off. Brother Shepherd, can I talk with you, please?
Of course. It looks like the library is available. I see Brother Good nearby. Is it okay if I invite him to join us?
Yes, thank you.
Bill. Mary Johnson would like to speak with us in the library. Can you join us?
Sure. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Can we help Mary?
I can't take the loneliness anymore. I want my Don back. I want my life back like it was before. The last song triggered my feelings. It feels like my heart is being ripped out of my chest all over again.
We can understand why the song would affect you that way. You and Don had a wonderful relationship.
Why am I still so torn up? It's been a year already.
Even though it's been a year and you've made good progress in coping, it's not wrong to still have moments of intense grief. When Jacob thought that his son Joseph had been killed, Genesis says that his father continued weeping for him.
Nothing can take away this pain of heart until Don and I are reunited as husband and wife.
That's a natural reaction, Mary. Remember, though, that Jehovah will continue to support you.
And one of the ways that he does this is by means of the elders.
I know, and I appreciate your help. It's just that...
Mary, would you be available for a visit this afternoon? Say around 1:30?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Brother Shepherd. And you too, Bill.
Overall,
Okay,
it seems Mary is doing...
we'll just get in here a little bit. Just on that scene, I'm just going to go back a bit. Here, where are we? We'll go back to... even all the way back to when she wanted to get some help here.
Bill,
Right here. So she comes into the back. She's obviously distressed. Everyone knows it.
Can I talk with you, please?
of course.
So right here, she wants to talk to him. So he goes and gets another brother. Now, what they're training their elders on is that you're going to use gray-headed brothers. So you notice the brothers all have gray hair or they're bald in most of these training videos. They're not really displaying too many younger brothers, I noticed. Now, I want to pull us in just before we start this. I want to pull into another article, and I'm just going to pause it here, and we're going to move over to it and just go over counseling, because here in this part of the video, they're going to go into a counseling session with this lady, and that's why most churches have family counselors in the church or part of the church or affiliated with the church. And family counselors, we're going to talk about that a little bit here. Just hold on. Okay, so this is just a site, Good Therapy. It talks about using licensed therapists. Very, very important. In this case, this lady already talked about suicide. I think to alleviate liability from your congregation elders, you would want some licensed therapists involved here. Now, does sex or gender of a therapist matter? That's the discussion in this article. I think so. And so do the professionals. What does it say? It says, often people's fears about therapy revolve around the therapist or the development of a healthy, lasting relationship with a new therapist. It's common to have some worry or confusion about choosing a male or female therapist, especially if the nature of the topics covered in the therapy have anything to do with gender identity, sexuality, or sexual orientation. And it goes on to say, can I ask for a therapist of a specific sex, gender? So in the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses, can a sister ask for that? Well, no, you can't, because it's only the elders. And we'll see that in the video. Now, according to Good Therapy and according to the health experts and according to all the licensed practitioners and according to our governments, you absolutely can ask for a therapist of a specific sex or gender. In fact, when calling most intake lines, you'll be asked if you have a preference. Finding a therapist is all about matching with someone you'll feel comfortable pursuing treatment with. And for some patients, this means someone of a specific gender identity. Some people may feel more at ease knowing that they're discussing a particular issue with someone they can more easily relate to. And it's important to note, however, that not every request can be met of waiting for a therapist of a preferred gender. So sometimes that can delay your things. So now, when we talk about trauma, abuse, it says it may make some people wary of speaking with a person of the same gender as a former current abuser. So in a Kingdom Hall, let's say the abuser's a male, and here you have a woman or even a young girl talking to a bunch of elders, male elders. Doesn't seem right. It says here, a female survivor of domestic violence in a heterosexual relationship, for example, may not feel comfortable pursuing treatment with a male therapist. And it could potentially be too stressful or triggering, which could undermine the goal of a successful therapy session. And aren't these elder books shepherding the flock? Is this not therapy? Is this not to help the flock? Well, they sure get involved in the blood issues and medical issues and sex lives and fornication, adultery, all of those things. In fact, you're not allowed to go outside and seek legal advice or anything. You have to take it before the elders. So the elders are like lawyers, judges, and now we see them becoming therapists. And I think this is why it's important to expose this stuff. and really show the public what goes on behind closed doors in these elders' rooms. So we're going to get back to the video. So yeah, we're back to the video here, and we watched all this part, but she has to get the elders. She hasn't. There's no choice. There's nothing of a choice in a kingdom hall in this kind of a situation. So she goes and sits down and bears her soul with these elders, and they're nice and everything. What I couldn't get it right here. Let's look at this part here. She's not happy.
Husband and wife.
That's a natural reaction, Mary.
Why is he
Remember,
smiling?
though, that joy.
I don't know. The last video I did, the poor Robbie was getting disfellowshipped, and the elders were all like this. This lady's grieving over her dead husband, and this guy's smiling about it. I don't know. Like, you see, in the Jehovah's Witness world, death isn't. They live in this fantasy land, and to this brother here, he the guy's going to get resurrected. You're going to see your husband in the new system. It's real to these elders. They believe it. It could be real. I don't know. No one has died and come back and wrote the book on it. That's the thing. Some of these mysteries exist for a reason. So anyways, Jehovah's Witnesses try to pretend, and it's not that. Like, they actually believe this stuff, but the governing body pretends that this stuff is real. Like, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and you're going to see your husband, and we don't know that. We don't know any of that. But this guy, he's pretty happy about it here.
Jehovah will continue to support you.
He will. Jehovah will
And
support
one
you.
of the ways that he does this is by means of the elders.
Yeah, the elders.
I know, and I appreciate your help. It's just that.
Mary, would you be available for a visit this afternoon?
Yeah, we want to come over for
Say
cookies.
around 1:30?
Get the cookies ready.
Yes, I would. Thank you, Brother Shepherd. And you too, Bill.
Yeah. So this is what's interesting next. So they're going to go over and have a visit with Mary. How many of them are going? And who's going?
Overall, it seems Mary is doing better than she did just a few months ago. However, she still has some very emotional setbacks.
Yes, I thought we could take a couple of minutes to find some verses. And perhaps a magazine article that could help her strengthen her determination to be an integrity keeper. And first, let me say a brief prayer, asking for Jehovah's guidance.
Amen.
Thank you so much for coming, brother.
So these guys are not counselors. They're not family counselors. They're not licensed in any way. The only thing they have going for them is the Elders book. And I looked at the Elders book. We're going to look at the Elders book after this presentation to see what it says about counseling a widow or counseling for suicide. We'll see what it says. These guys have no training whatsoever, just this Elders book. And so they come over here because they're the stewards of the congregation, and they're over here. Why are they over here? Why are two elders over here? This would make me wonder, why didn't one of the elders bring his wife? Why didn't just an elder and his wife come over and visit the lady? Why did they send two elders over?
Others. It just seems that I can't get over Don's death. I'll be okay for a day or two, and then anything could trigger this devastating hollow void I feel inside. I've had to run the business all by myself, and I don't have to remind you of the troubles I've had with the house. Sometimes I feel so worn out, I don't want to go on anymore. I really don't. I've even had thoughts of turning the car on in the garage and just going to sleep inside.
Thank you for feeling comfortable enough to tell us that. It is not an
Okay, so at this point in the game, this is twice she's talked about turning the car on in the garage. I thought, at the first call out on that, they should have actually called for some help. Maybe called the suicide line, got them involved. No, Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that. It's not in the Elders book. I looked. We'll look at the Elders book again in case I missed it, but not that I've seen so far. Now, this young lady here, she talked about some of her concerns, and this is scripted, folks. This is Watchtower scripted. So she brought out some of the concerns that she has is fixing things up around the house. Her husband's gone. It's been a year. She can't keep up, and they probably have a mortgage. Who knows if he didn't have insurance? So what she's dealing with from a financial end. And folks, we're going to look at this after this video. We're going to look at what the Bible really says about caring for orphans and for widows. And we're going to look at what the Watchtower says about caring for orphans and widows. We're going to go a little further. The video says nothing, but we're going to carry on. I'm going to let you see what goes on next.
unusual for intense grief to cause bouts of depression and even some irrational thoughts. You know who you remind me of, Mary? You remind me of Job of old. Satan tries to capitalize on tragic events to cause a lover of Jehovah to falter spiritually. We often set Job up on a pedestal, as if he were a perfect integrity keeper. Mary, always remember that while Job kept his integrity, he was imperfect, with feelings just like yours.
I don't think he was as messed up as I am.
Let's think about that. He lost 10 family members in death, and he lost the family business altogether. Turn to Job, chapter 6, verses 2 and 3. Let's see if you can relate to him. Job, chapter 6, verses 2 and 3. It says, "Oh, that my vexation," that's his emotional anxiety, "my vexation were altogether weighed, and that at the same time my adversity they would put on scales themselves." Mary, he doesn't think that anyone can know how he feels. If they could put his emotional pain on scales and see the needle register into the red, then maybe someone could understand what he's going through. Verse 3, "For now it," that's his vexation, "is heavier even than the sands of the seas." Does that sound like you, Mary? What was the effect on righteous Job? It continues, "That is why my own words have been wild talk." Do you know what some of his wild talk was, Mary?
Was it his questioning why Jehovah allowed it all?
That's true too, but he felt much like you just described yourself. Well, Job didn't have a car in the garage. He said in chapter 7, "My soul chooses suffocation, death, rather than my bones." In chapter 10, he said, "I have a loathing for life." He had wild thoughts like you have. But think about it. We don't call him Job the emotionally distraught soul, do we? No, he was Job the integrity keeper because he did not give in to his irrational thoughts. Mary, thus far you too are an integrity keeper. Like Job, be determined not to give in to such wild thoughts. When such a thought comes to mind, treat it as you would an immoral thought. What would you do with an immoral thought?
Reject it.
That's right. Change that thought, even physically doing something different. Repeat to yourself, I am an integrity keeper. I am an integrity keeper. And if possible, read a little from the Psalms to help stabilize your emotions.
Thank you for sharing that. I needed to hear it. And I do want to provide Jehovah with an answer to the taunter.
Mary, before we came over, we did a little research and have some verses we'd like to share. They might help you to continue making progress in coping with your grief.
I need all the help I can get.
Please find Jeremiah chapter 29.
Okay, let's talk about the Job illustration. So, number one, we'll go back here, the Job illustration. He starts talking about Job feeling suffocated. Well, if I think about the Job illustration, and he lost all his family, his family was all murdered by God and Satan, the whole story there. Like, we all know the story. Satan's in heaven before God, and God says, well, why is Job so righteous? Satan says, because you put a hedge around him. And so Jehovah says, well, take everything he has except his life and see that he still stands faithful. Like, we all know the story. We were taught that in the Bible stories book. And then Job had all these boils and stuff, and he felt like dying. He just felt like why do I even exist? So he was tested right down to the bone. To me, it's a poor illustration. This poor lady lost her husband. She can't keep up to the maintenance around the house. She's feeling overwhelmed. And then this guy compares it to immoral thoughts. Did you get that? Like, why would they compare it to immoral thoughts? And they get her into that whole, it's like immoral thoughts. Suicide's like immoral thoughts. These are two men that are not licensed therapists, and they're telling this woman that suicide, feeling like committing suicide, is like immoral thoughts. Like, everything's sexual about these elders. You've seen in the last video how they worked that young Robbie over about fornication, and every little detail. They wanted to know how many times a day he was doing it. Like with these elders, when it comes to sexual stuff, just right off the bat, just say, I 3 times a day, every day. Just disfellowship me. Let's skip this whole meeting. Like, these guys want to know everything. So, but with this situation, with some of the suicidal, if I was an elder, I would want to get this lady some help, some serious help, and there should be a female. It should be gender specific. Get someone involved that understands these things, because these elders are not professionals. To use an example like Job, I think is the wrong example. I don't think that's the right example. They've chosen that. The Watchtower chose it to train their elders on that. But I don't think that's the right example to use for a suicide person. Someone that's talking about that and feeling very distressed, very depressed. So let's see what goes on next here.
Search and have some verses we'd like to share. They might help you to continue making progress in coping with your grief.
I need all the help I can get.
Please find Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 11 and 12. We know that it has been difficult for you to get the calamity of Dawn's death out of your mind, and that's understandable. But Mary, how does Jehovah view you and your situation? You see, Jehovah has the ability to look beyond your calamity and to see you in the future when your hopes become a reality. Read these beautiful words in verse 11 with me and be thinking, this is what Jehovah thinks when he looks down and sees what Mary is dealing with. It reads, "For I myself well know the thoughts that I am thinking toward Mary," is the utterance of Jehovah. Thoughts of peace. It says he thinks of peace when he sees you, and not of calamity, to give you a future and a hope. Jehovah chooses not to dwell on the calamity, but he looks to your peaceful future and hope.
What a wonderful example for all of us, to try to focus not on the calamity, but on our future and our hopes.
Now look at the assurance he gives to you, Mary, in verse 12. When you pray to him, what will happen? It says, "And you will certainly call me and come and pray to me." And Jehovah says, "I will listen to you." Isn't that comforting and reassuring?
Yes, yes it is. I don't ever remember reading those verses before.
God's word is alive and in effect adapts to our changing circumstances with the word behind us saying, "This is the way, Mary. Walk in it with his people."
I'd like to give you an assignment. Will you agree to memorize those 2 verses? Then, when you're overwhelmed, repeat the verses to yourself. Even doing so out loud, it might have a calming effect on you.
I'll do that and give it a try. Oh, I'm sorry. I must be losing my mind. I meant to set out some cookies to go with your coffee.
I'm ready for cookies. Look at him thanking Jehovah. Anyways, that's the end of that. That's crazy. Okay, so we're going to look at a few scriptures here. Okay, so this is the Amplified version. This is James 1, testing your faith. So we go right to the bottom here. I have it highlighted. And this is in the Elders book. We will look at it in the Elders book. They do refer to this. So, and we'll look at it in the Watchtower. And the Watchtower Bible says something a little different. But in other Bibles, here's what it says: pure and unblemished religion, as it is expressed in outward acts, in the sight of our God and Father is this: to visit and look after the fatherless and the widows in their distress, and to keep oneself uncontaminated by the secular world. So James is talking about a religion, not the people in the congregation. So we're going to go over to a Watchtower article next. So I just plugged in caring for widows in their search bar, and up comes this article. Okay, so this is the Watchtower of 1978 when I plugged in helping widows. This is all they really have. And I'll blow it up here. We'll take a look at it. So it just kind of talks about helping orphans and widows. How can we help? They're in our midst, it talks about. So the Watchtower doesn't have any program within to help orphans and widows. So this is really talking about ones in the congregation, noticing that there's orphans and widows in our midst, and for us in the congregation to reach out and to do something and to help. And it does talk about, after ascertaining areas where help and encouragement are needed and would be appreciated, we should follow through to the extent possible. And it says it may be a matter of assisting with home cleaning, washing or shopping, sometimes material aid in forms of money, clothing, or food may be appropriate. It could be very encouraging for persons in need to be invited to accompany you in a Bible study activity or return visits. So they always tie it into field ministry, because that's really the social part of the religion, is the field ministry, because that's mandatory. So that's all I could really find as far as helping orphans and widows within the organization. And it's really up to ones in the Kingdom Hall to help out. But the Watchtower does not have a program where the Watchtower will help orphans and widows. See, some religions do have, they have licensed therapists, they have orphanages, and they have places where homeless shelters, women's shelters for people that really need some help. And the other thing with licensed therapists outside of a congregation is, you see, a person isn't going to necessarily bare their heart to someone in the congregation that they have to see every day. You might not want to do that. So if you had a licensed therapist outside and gender specific, female, And you could bare your heart. That person's not a part of the congregation. Licensed therapist knows you can bare your heart, talk about what's weighing down on you, and then the licensed therapist can talk to the congregation elders and say, okay, here's what we're going to recommend is that you get some ladies in from the congregation 3 times a week to help her with house cleaning right now. Maybe you can get a couple of young people helping her with the lawn work on the outside. And, do you have a roofer? She has a leaky roof. This is how we help people. It's not by getting them to a meeting and punching some more literature down and going to their place and they have to make us cookies. They're ready to commit suicide and they're training the elders to go there and just sit there and get some cookies. No, it's about you and your wife bringing some cookies over to her place and then maybe another sister, maybe 2 women. And they get involved and start helping with house cleaning right away and they make the cookies. You see, this is a backwards training video, the more I look at it. So I look at some of this other stuff they have, support the weak, good shepherds, but there's nothing in there about love. There's nothing. It's just support the weak. It's more about bringing them to the meetings, getting them to the meetings, visiting them, and make sure they have the latest Watchtower magazine. That's it. And then they want you to humbly submit to these loving shepherds. But they're not loving. They don't do anything. They come over and they nitpick you. Did you go to enough meetings? Are you going to the meetings? Are you having immoral thoughts? If you're thinking of suicide, you could be having immoral thoughts. The guy asked it. This is a training video. They're training their elders to ask these questions. So it's very, very shallow as far as the training that the Watchtower has for to help ones that need some help. Okay, so the last part of the program, we're back to the Elders book, Shepherd the Flock Elders book, and we're gonna plug in some keywords and just see what comes up. So we will take a video and go over this thoroughly, but let's take a look at what comes up for funeral. So I did do some of this funeral. It says there's 1 out of 6 approving use of the Kingdom Hall for funerals. Just more about funeral talks. Nothing. That's it. Okay. Well, let's talk about depression. Attempted suicide may be the result of deep despair or major depression. Elders should deal carefully and compassionately with such ones. In most cases, a judicial hearing is not required. Psalms 88, Proverbs, they give the Awake magazine. That's it. Just that. Let me pull that up on the screen so you guys can see that. That's it. Attempted suicide. So is there anything else? It says here, if the accused threatens suicide. This is an accused one, this part of the Elders book. So let's say someone's accused, they're going to be disfellowshipped and they threaten suicide. This is what they say to do. It says in judicial cases in which the accused threatens suicide, it may be best for the committee to suspend the hearing to focus on helping him regain his balance. It uses a he. They should assure him of the committee's desire to help him, and then should broach the subject of depression and suicide using the scriptures and Bible-based publications. Depending on his emotional state, it may be best to do this a day or 2 later. The elders can prepare by reviewing articles that will help them deal sensitively with the depressed individual. The judicial committee should avoid unnecessary prolonging the case, as this can cause undue stress for the accused. The judicial committee should communicate with the service department if there are questions about a certain case. So there's nothing in there about phoning the suicide hotline. Nothing. Now we could look up that Awake, but I read the other one. There's nothing in there. It talks about the media. They're worried about legal. There's a lot in here about legal, but that's all there is on depression. So sisters, if we plug in the word sisters, It only comes up 17 times. Sisters presented by sisters, showing consideration. Some brothers and sisters, nothing really. Assisting sisters. Here it is. An elder or ministerial servant must never meet alone with or become the sole confidant of a sister who is not closely related to him. If possible, the body of elders should arrange for different pairs of elders to shepherd a sister who needs ongoing assistance. It is appropriate for an elder to speak with a sister while in full view of others at her home, at congregation meetings, or in field ministry. Now, at the start of this video, that elder that met with the sister was in a closed library, closed door. There was no windows at all, and the blinds were shut. So he went against their own counsel right here. And it's even saying at the Kingdom Hall, even at the Kingdom Hall. So anyways, that's sisters. So that's it for sisters. We should remember our brothers and sisters. Referrals with prisoners. Sisters should correspond only with female prisoners. Okay, so the other word I wanted to type in was disfellowship. Disfellowship. And disfellowship comes up 130 times in here. The Elders book is a book about disfellowshipping. Let me just get through the index here. So it comes up 130 times. Deletion, all kinds of disfellowshipping. So we'll cover that another day. Now I want to show you one other thing. Love. Love comes up 5 times. Love comes up. I thought it's a Loving Shepherd's book. It only comes up 5 times. It comes up Jehovah's love. It comes up, and love required of Christian overseers. And the talk should be delivered with love, warmth, and dignity. And out of love for his wife, an elder will not burden her with information that she does not need to know. So you want to keep everything secret from your wife out of love. That's out of love for your wife. And then it says, if review with him information from the remaining in God's love book. And that's it. Jehovah's love. That's it for in here. Now, disfellowshipping was in here like 130 times. Love was in here 5 times. So you tell me, is this a book about love? Or is this a book about disfellowshipping? It's not a book about helping the depressed. There was just one little piece on that. Nothing. So that's it for the Elders book. I really have nothing that can help us to help these depressed ones through this Elders book. That's, I guess, why they did this training video. So, folks, we appreciate your comments. So please leave your comments, and it helps us in making our next video. And we are working on the next one. We're going to talk about education next and how they have a training video to teach the elders about education. That would be important to know, wouldn't it, if, for everyone out there? How do they train the elders about education in this organization? Okay, well, folks, that brings an end to our program, and until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now.